Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode, a rainy episode of Friday Morning at the Funhouse with Martin Popoff. What's happening, my friend?
It's definitely not rainy here. It's cold and sunny, basically.
Wow, it's pouring here. It's
wow.
Look, if I look outside right now, it looks like it's like 8:30 at night, and the moat is around my pool once again. It seems like every time it rains here in the Hudson Valley, it rains so hard that the water has nowhere to go. So yeah, it's chilly, it's rainy, it's like London here in.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, now that you mention it, I checked the news, CNN this morning, and it actually, warranted a headline saying that New York City could see some flooding, right?
Yeah. So yeah. I just got all the water off my pool cover, and now it's all back on again. It's like, it seems like a never-ending cycle.
Yeah,
but whatever. So as advertised, here we have a very interesting episode for you today that really made us put our thinking caps on, and I really enjoyed kind of like putting my list together. So you know what, I'm going to let Martin describes this better than I do. I always fumble with trying to say what we're trying to do here today. And since this was Martin's idea and he had done something similar on his podcast, I'll let you take it from here, my friend.
Yeah, this is a bit of a weird one. I first wanted to mention I'm wearing another one of Bill's shirts, Bill Bear, and I'm going to go see him next week. But I think Grace and Bill managed to watch last week's show, so it's awesome. Good. It's giving him something to do, and as he's convalescing from his stroke situation. So a hello to Bill, a good morning. But yeah, so this concept, I did a History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff podcast episode called This Band's Police Album, and so that was just me, just 5 albums. So there's a lot of moving parts this time, because the idea here is this particular record is this band's Led Zeppelin album. So you got 2 of us talking about it. So you got lots of examples, and we went 10 albums. We went to all 8 plus the live album plus Coda. So yeah, this could get a little complicated, but we're going to go through all the Led Zeppelin albums and a couple of examples each, and some honorable mentions when we have them, sort of thing. And then, yeah, I guess I'll do, we'll get Led Zeppelin 1 out of the way, then we'll both move on to Led Zeppelin 2 and 3 and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I think this will make more sense as we go along and start giving examples to what we're really trying to do here. So at first, like when I was sitting down to figure this out, it almost like it didn't make sense to me. And then and I don't want to say too much because we'll get to it, but it really makes lots of sense when you really sit down and start thinking about it. And as we're explaining all of our picks, I think you'll get what we're getting at here.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And even to formulate it in my own mind as we go, so to keep me from getting confused, is I'm going to kind of try to say it as it is, so you kind of get it. So my first one is Black Sabbath is Black Sabbath Led Zeppelin. So Led Zeppelin 1, of course. So I feel like the thing that stands out for me about Led Zeppelin 1, John Gaffney had me on and on one of his Lair of the Alchemist episodes, and he wanted to make the point that Led Zeppelin 1 ticks off all the boxes of Led Zeppelin, sort of thing. So you really get a good formulation of what the band
fully realized of what they were going to do right from the very get-go, right?
Exactly. All the examples and components of what they're going to do are on that album. So I feel that you get that on the first Black Sabbath album. And another one that okay, so let's do the ones that I had in my notes first. So I feel like Love It to Death is Alice Cooper's Led Zeppelin, because the first 2 aren't like that. I think this one ticks all the boxes of what you're going to see through the classic band. Another one that really fits this for me is Nazareth. Yeah. To me, this really actually sounds a lot like Led Zeppelin 1. It even looks like Led Zeppelin 1. And it's a self-titled, but again, here you get a little bit of everything. It's the raw version of what you're going to get moving forward, sort of thing. And another honorable mention I had was Scorpions in Trance. I feel like this is the first one where you get them ticking off a lot of the boxes with the likes of A Dark Lady and things like that. Fly to the Rainbow a little bit as well. Let's see, I had one more honorable mention, Iron Maiden. I feel like this is the raw, simple version of what you're going to get. They are also checking off all the boxes. You got some mellow stuff, some prog, some heavy stuff. So, self-titled as well. So I feel like this, I've always felt like this is their Black Sabbath as well. But to me, this is the Essentially, we have the concept, but it's the raw version of the concept. So those are my Led Zeppelin ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully everybody kind of gets it now, right? So fully realized sound doesn't have to be their first album with Zeppelin. It obviously was, but and a perfect example of one, this is Deep Purple's In Rock is Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin. And you got 3 albums that came before this that are not like this at all. This really is the album where Deep Purple, the sound they would utilize, granted, it's a little heavier than some of the other stuff that came afterwards, but this is the first album where they become the Deep Purple that everybody knows and loves. And the Yes album is Led Zeppelin's Led Zeppelin. And here,
Yes is Led Zeppelin.
Yes is Led Zeppelin. Sorry, it's a lot to say.
I knew this was gonna happen. Like it's like I have to say it that way, or I'm gonna just be all over the place, right? So
yeah, Yes is the Yes album is Led Zeppelin's Led Zeppelin. Okay, I'm gonna
is Yes is Led Zeppelin.
Yes is Led Zeppelin. Yes. Jeez,
yeah.
This is gonna get confusing. Anyway, again, the reason why I picked this is because you have the first couple of albums are a little bit different, little psychedelic, little pop. This is the album where the Yes as a band becomes fully realized here. Honorable mentions, and Martin missed one of his that he put down, but UFO Phenomenon is UFO's Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to discount those first 2 space kind of bluesy rock, space rocky albums, right? Other examples here: Uriah Heep, Very Heavy, Very Humble is Uriah Heep's Led Zeppelin. Saxon Wheels of Steel is Uriah Heep's Led Zeppelin, because of course that first album a little bit different.
It's not Uriah Heep's Led Zeppelin. But...
No, not Uriah Heep's Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Santana is Santana's Led Zeppelin. All right, right from the first album, boom. And Genesis Trespass is Genesis Led Zeppelin, because that first album from Genesis to Revelation, very folky, poppy, right? Not real the Genesis sound, but that would start on Trespass. All right, I think we got the inaugural one out of the way. So.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to 2. I strongly feel that 2 is the Pretenders 2. That the first album was called Pretenders and this one's called 2, so it's got that Zeppelin thing going for it as well. Plus you even got the band on the front dressed up a little bit, just like the the flight suit sort of thing that you get on 2 kind of thing. But no, I feel like so with 2, Led Zeppelin 2, I think what you get is stronger versions of those boxes all ticked. From the first album. So they're just starting to feel a little more confident and stuff. And this is my favorite Pretenders album. So I really feel like, and I feel like the first 2 really go together. They kind of do the same sorts of things. And I think this is just a stronger version of what Pretenders did on the first one. I feel like The Edges of Twilight is Tea Party's 2. Because it's essentially their second album, and again, it's just the concept really comes into focus. It's like sitting there at the optometrist and he's flipping those things. It really sort of comes together, and you get it's still a little bit of the raw version of what they're going to do, but it's everything they're going to do. So I think that one fits. I would say that Violation is Stars 2. Because again, it's just a better realized version of what they did on the first album, and it is their second album. Here's one that just kind of came to me that I've always felt the exact same thing. I feel like Get Your Wings is Aerosmith's 2. Because again, it's just, to me, it's a big improvement. But it's still the meat and potatoes blues-based Aerosmith, where things are going to change and get a little more fancy pants on the next album sort of thing. So I really feel like this lines up with 2. And I think I had one more honorable mention. Yeah, I feel like Hell of a Band is Angels 2. It is the second album. It is better. And I think the songs are a little more focused. It's they're shorter and more to the point. That's the other difference between Zeppelin 1 and 2. Zeppelin 1 has a lot of a couple of long songs on it, right? So yeah, I think just everything comes more into focus. The heavier is heavier. The production's a step up, and it's just a little less wayward and all over the place. So this is Angels 2. Gotcha. There you go. Those are all mine.
All right. Budgie Squawk is Budgie's Led Zeppelin 2. Again, very similar to the first album. The first two albums kind of bluesy, but still heavy, a little bit of folky stuff mixed in. I think the songs are maybe a little bit better than the first album, but it's still kind of in the same vein, and it's also their second album. I also picked Aerosmith Get Your Wings for all the reasons you said, so I'll go on to one of my honorable mentions here. Bad Company Straight Shooter is Bad Company's 2. Again, Dynamite first album, second album, stylistically very, very similar. Lots of cool, memorable songs. Really, really good. Also, one that Martin mentioned too in our notes here, Venom Black Metal is there, Zeppelin 2. And Boston Don't Look Back is also there. It's Boston's 2. Basically takes the same formula of the first album. It's almost like it was recorded the same sessions, maybe not as successful an album, but in the same vein. And it's also their second album.
All right. Apologies. I didn't see you had Get Your Wings in your
That's
notes
okay.
there. So moving on to 3. Got some good ones here. This is my favorite one of these. I've always felt this. This is literally as high as I can sort of go on this. I want to make sure you haven't mentioned these here. Okay, so here we go. Nazareth Exercises is Nazareth 3. This is the one where after the second album, Nazareth basically decided, let's make a folky acoustic album. So this is weirdly mellow for Nazareth. It's much mellower than the debut. It's much mellower than Razmanaz and Loud and Proud and Hair the Dog. So this one totally fits. It also has vaguely the same color album cover, as Led Zeppelin 3. And it's a gatefold like Led Zeppelin 3. What do we got in the gatefold? Maybe it doesn't. Let's see. Okay. This one kind of less so. This is more like, so Attention Shoppers is Stars 3. This is more because it just is the poppier, lighter version of Stars. It shocked us all at the time, kind of like Led Zeppelin 3, shocked people with its acousticness. Let's see, what else did we have here? Oh yeah, here's a good one. That's an honorable mention that makes perfect sense. Nebraska is Bruce Springsteen's 3. This is him making a quiet acoustic album sort of thing, right? People loved it, but it isn't a big loud band album. What did I have for honorable mentions? I had The Big Fantasize by Kim Mitchell. So he recently did an album that he just decided to make it more of like a campfirey acoustic, little, lighter arrangement sort of album. And then in that light, I took this out as an honorable mention as well. A Million Vacations is Max Webster's 3, because, it's way up my list of favorites. It probably is my favorite. But if you looked at all of them, this is the one that is definitely the lightest, although it goes more in a keyboard correction than direction than acoustic guitar. So that's all I had.
Yeah, I think the point here is that Led Zeppelin 3 was such an about-face different approach for Zeppelin. Very, very folky, just a couple electric tunes. So what we're going for here is stylistically albums in a catalog that just like are total outliers, right? So for me, my first one is Ambrosia 180 is Ambrosia Zeppelin 3. Band was basically kind of a prog band in the first couple albums. Third album is a little bit more of a rock direction. Then all of a sudden here they become like AOR, soft rock, yacht rock legends with this particular album. So really different in the catalog. And my other is Doc Holliday, Modern Medicine. So again, Southern rock band, the first 2 albums, rip snorting Southern rock. And then all of a sudden they come out with this album, which is like synth pop. It's like, what happened here? They never went and did another album quite like this, thankfully. But yeah, this one sticks out like a sore thumb in the catalog. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. Jeff Beck Flash, which he released in the early 80s. That Jeff Beck Jeff Beck was notorious for doing all sorts of different stuff all the time, but this is his lone kind of like funk, almost like dance rock album. And David Bowie, The Man Who Sold the World, which is, from being kind of like a pop star early on, then he puts out this heavy rock album, and then he goes into the glam thing. So it kind of sits there in the catalog. And Man Who Sold the World, I believe that was also his third album, third or fourth. One of the 2. Anyway, but yeah, very different and just a one-off there. So,
yeah. And let it be known that P is the first one on the internet ever to call Modern Medicine Doc Holliday's Led Zeppelin 3.
Yes, yeah, and in this case, not a good way. So Led Zeppelin 3 is a great album. This is not a great album.
Yeah. I don't know, that just came to mind because when putting together this exercise, it's like in the back of your mind, you're also thinking, we're comparing things to some really, really huge monumental
We are.
albums here, right? We could
Yeah.
pick like goofy small bands, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and no, I just so yeah, that's a good point, Martin. In no
yeah,
way are we trying to say that these albums are as good as any of these Led Zeppelin
yeah,
albums.
yeah,
It's more of kind of an aesthetic
yeah,
thing, and how these albums are kind of characterized right by us. Like we look at these
yeah.
Zeppelin albums in certain ways because they're all a little bit similar or different. So it has nothing to do. We're not comparing anything here as far
Yeah.
as like what's better or anything, or we like them as much or any of that kind of stuff. So
Although having said that, my next album is much better than Led Zeppelin 4, and that would be Clutch. Blast Tyrant is Clutch's Led Zeppelin 4. Love this album to death. All the Clutch albums are really good, but for some reason, this one, I think the fans are coalescing around this one as an absolute masterpiece. I play it all the time. I think it craps on Led Zeppelin 4 from a height of several miles. So there you go. And I would say that Riot Fire Down Under is Riot's Led Zeppelin 4. Again, it just feels like all the most massive hits, we coalesce around this one Riot album as their masterpiece. I think it is an absolute masterpiece as well. I guess with Led Zeppelin, a lot of other albums come close, or we might even think are even better. But with some of these bands, like with the Riot situation, this is just far and away their greatest album.
yeah.
I don't know why I picked this one, but AC/DC Back in Black is AC/DC's Led Zeppelin 4. Let's say it's that way because it's just so massively massive sales wise. It's just such a huge monumental album. I wouldn't say particularly, it's loaded with all the band's greatest songs. But Led Zeppelin 4 really kind of has that quality. It just feels like every single song off that album is a well celebrated, well known Led Zeppelin song. Let me just see if I had any other honorable mentions. Nope, that's all I had.
Yeah, I think with Zeppelin 4, obviously, it's looked at as their greatest achievement, right? It's their biggest seller. It's got all the big songs. So that's what we're kind of going for here. The other bands who have that one album that's generally regarded as their classic. So I've got Eagles Hotel California. Obviously, the number one rivals Led Zeppelin 4 and sales and all that kind of stuff. Thin Lizzy Jailbreak. Right, of course, you got Boys Are Back in Town is here, title track is here, Emerald is here, Cowboy Song, generally regarded as their crowning achievement, certainly their biggest seller here in the States. And then honorable mentions, got stuff like, again, a little more obscure, Electric Wizard Dope Throne, right, is looked at as their greatest album. Fleetwood Mac Rumors certainly is their Zeppelin 4. Motorhead Ace of Spades is Motorhead's 4. Dream Theater Images and Words is their 4. Supertramp Breakfast in America is Supertramp's 4. So lots of again, the one album that's always kind of singled out as like their big album.
Okay, now it gets a little difficult and
yes,
a little more interesting. Houses of the Holy, kind of a funny one. So Houses of the Holy is an album to me that it feels like the vaguely unsatisfying follow-up to a massive, incredible album where they're still kind of ticking the boxes, but they're being a little weird about it. And I remember the fans being like, we're a little tired of Led Zeppelin at this time. I don't know if we all love this album as much. Maybe, pull the curtain back. Maybe they aren't absolute geniuses. I don't know what's going, over time it's sold amazing and people love the songs on it and stuff. But at the time, it felt like a little bit of, are we a little tired of Led Zeppelin sort of thing? So it's funny. In my little stack, I had this out and I have no idea why. I don't know what this goes with. I don't think it is their House of the Holy. We'll see if something comes to me later on why I had that one out. But anyways, it was in my House of the Holy stack. This one, I definitely feel that way. Relayer is yes, apostrophe Houses of the Holy. I feel like you're getting to you're past the big monumental double album. It just feels there's not a lot of songs on it. It's kind of vaguely unsatisfying. It's a little all over the place. People like kind of wrinkle their nose up a little at it. It's like, is Yes getting a little tired? Have we heard all their tricks? So it feels a little bit like that. I think this definitely feels that way. A Day at the Races by Queen as a follow-up to A Night at the Opera. People saw this graphic the title and the font and the Marx Brothers thing again. It's like, okay, Queen's bringing us. They absolutely blew us away with the last one. They're kind of bringing us a slightly weaker version of the same thing, ticking all the same boxes. So this really feels like Queen's Houses of the Holy. For kicks, I had Ministry's Houses of the Moly. You got to mention that just because of the title. I have no idea. I don't really think this is their Houses of the Holy, other than calling it Houses of the Mole like that. Let's see, what else did I have here? I had down, I was going to bring up Bark at the Moon is Ozzy Osbourne's Houses of the Holy, but I don't really feel that about it. So I don't know.
I think the Ultimate Sin works better as an example.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had Weekend Warriors is Ted Nugent's Houses of the Holy, because, after, somewhat some excitement about Cat Scratch Fever. I mean, there's a fair bit of excitement about it, right? And, the whole catalog coming up to that, you got Ted Nugent, Free for All. It just felt like, a little bit, here's Ted back again. Is the momentum carried? Maybe not. What else did we have here? I just had kind of putting down Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, thinking, it's just kind of a fuzzier version of Black Sabbath. The first ones hit hard. You know what they're all about. It's all guitars. It's really rocking. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, they're a little more thoughtful, a little more artistic. So it feels a little bit like that, and it comes out the same year as Houses of the Holy as well. So that's what I had for that one.
Yeah, I think so. My approach to this, I was thinking, specifically about House of the Holy and some of the things that we use to characterize that album. It's not as great as an artistic achievement or seller as Zeppelin 4. B, there's a lot of different styles on the album, right? Some of which people were kind of like, there's reggae on here, there's pop on here. It's like, what's going on here? So I kind of like tried to take that approach. So one of my picks is Robin Trower, Long Misty Days, which is right here, which again follows, Bridge of Sighs, his big album, and For Earth Below, which is also pretty big. And then Long Misty Days is like really kind of funky and a little more bluesy and less psychedelic, less hard rock. So, and I don't think people were as enamored with this album as they were with the first three. So it was kind of like almost like a little blip on the radar there. ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, Discovery, comes after the massive album that was Out of the Blue. And here it's kind of like Out of the Blue light. It's a little dancey and disco-y. And while it sold pretty well, I think people were kind of like, has the luster and the magic of ELO kind of worn off a little bit? Are they just going to kind of do what everybody else is doing in the late 70s and start going from, art rock to disco, that? And an honorable mention I picked was Deep Purple Stormbringer, which again met with a little bit of indifference after the great, the reformation of the new lineup with Burn, and then Stormbringer comes out and people are like, this is okay. It's not great. I don't love it. It's a little bit different. It's a little funkier, a little bluesier, right? But a little more R&B. It's still kind of Deep Purple, but met with, I think what we're getting here is like these albums were met with a little bit of skepticism, right? And the excitement seems to have worn off just a little bit amongst the fan base. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So on to Physical Graffiti, I guess the idea here is the masterpiece, the masterwork, maybe the double album, just the incredibleness of this. I always call this album the aircraft carrier of rock albums, right? So I think this one totally fits. Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. This is their double album. It was a massive seller. Right around this time, they were just considered geniuses, the It Band. I think it's widely considered their best album. It's so much variety on here, yet they're firing on all cylinders. It's just the perfect time to be Smashing Pumpkins, and they smash it with a double album. So that's really cool. I think that totally fits. And very similar, I think Extreme with Three Sides to Every Story fits here. This is considered their masterpiece, their most serious work. It's varied. It's essentially, I guess you'd say, as long as 1.5 albums. So it's sort of considered their double album, right? It's got 14 songs on it. And actually, the songs are really long. So they basically fill up a single CD. But I mean, in your mind, you almost see it as a double album because there's so much ambition to this record. So yeah, it just feels like their masterwork, whereas every other album around it is just a collection of songs. But this is actually broken up into yours, mine, and the truth, and it just feels like their physical graffiti, their grand statement. And then stepping down a little bit, a little weaker, we could pick any band and pick sort of their masterpiece. And I think Rust in Peace is their masterpiece, Megadeth's masterpiece, just widely considered their best album. It's not a double, but it's the one that where everything comes together in an amazing way. You feel this great confidence, amazing songwriting. With Led Zeppelin, the added thing is you just felt this great songwriting and just went on and on and on. And it was four sides of it. So I guess honorable mentions, other bands' masterpieces. You could say Riding High is Moxie's physical graffiti. You could say, well, this is definitely one, but I didn't want to talk about the Clash all the time. London Calling is the Clash's physical graffiti. I think that's indisputable. Sabotage is Black Sabbath's physical graffiti. I always compare those two together. They come out the same year. Destroyer is Kiss physical graffiti. The most ambitious album, the most going on, the most produced. Give Us a Wink is Sweet's physical graffiti. The Dreaming is Kate Bush's physical graffiti, I'd say, because it seems like the most ambitious, the most out there, the most going on, even though it's only a single album. And I'd say Power and the Glory is Saxon's physical graffiti. I think it's far and away that band's masterpiece in every way. So yeah, if we can be so bold as to compare a Saxon album to physical graffiti, it'll be Power and the Glory. So there you go. It's all mine.
So I looked at this kind of two ways. So, because you talk to people about physical graffiti, and some people think it's their greatest achievement, it's their big double album, and some people think it's overblown and overrated and has lots of filler, right? So I tried to use both of those kind of forms of thought in my picks. So my first one is the White Album by the Beatles. Many people, just like physical graffiti, think it's double album. It's one of the great double albums of all time, loaded with classics, artistic achievement. Other people think it would have been a better single album. It's loaded with filler, right? Same thing with Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. Okay, is this their magnum opus filled with all sorts of greatness, or is this like loaded with stuff they probably should have never made it to an album, right? You be the judge, right? Other honorable mentions here, ELO, Out of the Blue. Again, their big double album, their big magnum opus. Yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans. Some people love it, some people hate it. But at the time, and again, all these double albums came out very, very within a few short years of each other. Tales from Topographic Oceans is seen as their masterwork as far as like complex songwriting and arranging. And also, I'll throw in Chicago 2 here as well, Martin's favorite band. Chicago 2, another double album. So all mine were double albums, but again, some people think they're amazing, and some people think they're filled with filler. So you be the judge, I guess.
All right. So our next one, let me get the stack out here, which is the right stack. We've got, here we go. So the next one is an
interesting one. This was
this was interesting. So we've got Led Zeppelin presence. What is a band's Led Zeppelin presence? So I suppose for presence, we look at a little bit casual, guitar-y, gritty. The arrangements aren't as crazy. Maybe even the writing isn't even all that ambitious. There's not a lot of songs. It's just a single album. Again, it feels like maybe the excitement level is a little bit down on the band. I'm going to start with Iggy Pop Instinct. I feel like this is one where he decided, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna go away from these more artistic directions I did, and I'm just gonna try to get a bunch of guys together and make a guitar album sort of thing. And just like Presence, it's vaguely unsatisfying a little bit, right? Presence, people are not crazy about. This is one where I always call it a be careful what you wish for album, because you wanted a heavy album from Iggy again, and it's just a little bit cold and clanky, right?
Plus, he went for like the Teen Beat magazine cover there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Funny. And then Budgie Power Supply, I feel fits that as well. Because this is a band that was always pretty meticulous with their recording. They were quite creative. They did a lot of different things. You could argue that If I Were Britannia is kind of maybe their House of the Holy. I don't know. But this definitely is a no nonsense guitar-y album, simple arrangements. So it feels like their presence, where it's like, let's come full circle. Let's just make a raw rock and roll album. So this is a pretty heavy new wave British heavy metal album. This definitely fits. Aerosmith Done with Mirrors is them being pretty bare bones and back to basics, sort of thing, where they're they're trying to be even less fancy pants than they were on Rock in a Hard Place, and they would get more fancy pants again. A lot of bells and whistles. This doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It's just a straight rock and rollsy album, and that's what people consider Presence. They consider it kind of the Jimmy Page album, right? What else did I have? Oh yeah, I kind of was in a Stars frame of mind and picked Coliseum Rock as them going back to heavy again, but it's almost like too well recorded, or almost like politely recorded. One that I actually feel really fits this is Alice in Chains' self-titled, the three-legged dog album cover, where it's very gritty and basic. Obviously a lot of drug problems and stuff at the time, but yeah, it's definitely not as professional sounding as Facelift and Dirt. So I thought that kind of fit here as well. So yeah, that's what I've got for Led Zeppelin Presence.
Yeah, and my approach on this one is I look, Presence is a late period album from the band. It comes out before an album where we'll get to in a minute, where you see some stylistic changes. It's also an album that maybe didn't sell as well as some of the other ones. And again, some people look at it as some of what's going on in the album is a return to form. Other stuff really isn't. Maybe it's they seem a little lethargic. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. And my first pick is Monolith by Kansas. So again, follows up two big albums. And here it's like this comes at a time, it's the late 70s, right? We're moving into the 80s. The next album is looked at kind of like as a miss by most people, but people generally speaking like this album, but they don't love it. And I think that's always been the case with Presence, right? A lot of people like it, but they're like, it's very rare that you see people pick it as their favorite album, even though it has some songs on it that people always gravitate to. So Monolith is Kansas's Presence. And then Gentle Giant Interview is Gentle Giant's Presence. So again, this comes after a string of successful in a relative term, but among the fan base of classic Gentle Giant albums. And here, this is mostly looked at as the last really good album before some albums that are lesser good, right? Or misses, as a matter of fact. This takes a similar formula to, the album that came before it, but it's kind of seen as like a lighter version of that, but some really great songs on it. And but again, maybe not quite as successful, and most people don't rank this that high in the catalog, even though when you really stop to look at it, it's got a lot to be happy about, just like Presence. So, and I didn't have any honorables for this one because this one was kind of
and on the subject of looking at it, that's got kind of the same album cover as Presence, right? You got an image within a white box, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And for that reason, I did a podcast episode of, I think I called it White Album Disappointments. And I included Aerosmith Draw the Line as their Presence in a way, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like the tired, raw, gritty, and it's white, a white cover. Kind of the band is spent a little bit, right? The band is tired.
Yeah.
So you feel like that as well, right?
That's a great pick, actually. Yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah. Okay, so song remains the same. So what did we have here? Yeah, it's kind of funny. So I had stopped making sense. Is Talking Heads Song Remains the Same, because it's kind of like the soundtrack to the concert movie sort of thing. But then I also thought, well, let's bring out another Talking Heads double live album. So this one too, the name of this band is Talking Heads, feels a little bit like Talking Heads Song Remains the Same, because it's got some live 80-81 and it's got some live 77-79 on it. So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, the same way that album is. Let's see, to get a little, well, okay, so we've got The kids are all right, even though it's not a live album per se. It's a soundtrack to a movie by the band.
A lot
So
of
that
live stuff on it though. So yeah,
yeah,
didn't think of
true,
that.
yeah.
That's a good one.
And to get a little meta on you, How the West Was Won is
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin's The Song Remains the Same. So this is almost like the second go round at trying to make a good live album. And I think they almost did a better job of it with this. So this is kind of their improvement on Song Remains the Same, I think,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a very good album. Honorable mentions. I had Flight 666 is Iron Maiden's The Song Remains the Same, because it's also the soundtrack to the movie kind of thing, right? And then Rainbow on Stage is Rainbow's The Song Remains the Same, because it's really crappy, like The Song Remains the Same. So that's my list.
I was wondering why you put that in there. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, this one also was an interesting one. So I kind of went with the whole film live album soundtrack kind of concept. So here we got Styx, Caught in the Act, which I will say as a live album, it's not too bad. The film is god awful.
Mhm.
I was watching some of it the other day and I'm like, holy cow, I'd forgotten how bad this was. Yeah, but because it's just they tried to make it like really theatrical and everything, and it's ridiculous. Just play the songs, guys. We don't need all this other nonsense. So yeah, there's that. And Rush, Exit Stage Left is their Song Remains the Same. Again, you got the movie, the film of it as well. Great live album. This one is really good as opposed to, yeah, God, Song Remains the Same. There's good stuff there. I don't know if it works overall, though. I think the film is fun to watch. At least it was fun to watch back, 30, 40 years ago when you're seeing it in a midnight movie showing and you've been doing all sorts of other things before the movie. And it's like, wow, this is great. But yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. On to In Through the Outdoor. Let's see what we got here. In Through the Outdoor. I think it is. Okay, yeah, I guess this is my In Through the Outdoor stack. So Shaken and Stirred is Robert Plant's In Through the Outdoor. So the idea here is that the band gets a little more keyboardy and modern. This is a very keyboardy and quirky album. We know In Through the Outdoor is a quirky album with Southbound Sares and Carousel Lambra and Hot Dog. So yeah, this after two sober traditional really loved Robert Plant albums, he gets modern kind of thing, and that's kind of the way we look at In Through the Outdoor. I feel a little bit like Bent Out of Shape is Rainbow's In Through the Outdoor, because I feel like this one gets a little bit more moody and subdued and keyboardy. It just feels like it hangs together in a different way than Straight Between the Eyes and Difficult to Cure, which seem a little more traditional. To me here, they really get a kind of a signature sound. It all comes together, and it is a lighter sound, and it's kind of what we appreciate from In Through the Outdoor. I feel like Grave Dancers Union is Soul Asylum's In Through the Outdoor, because I feel here they kind of get basically commercial. It's all the commercially things that band is known for. I thought this would be an interesting one. Thin Lizzy Renegade. I really like Thin Lizzy Renegade, but people consider it a little mellow overall. So it feels a little bit like that. And you get the large presence of Darren Wharton on here, whereas on In Through the Outdoor, you get the large presence of John Paul Jones as a keyboardist. So Darren's a big deal on this album. So yeah, it feels a little bit like that. And Sweet Level Headed. After Off the Record, this is a very mellow and keyboardy and proggy sort of album. So it feels like a real about face, turning around, against having so much guitar from Sweet. Let's see, what else do I have? The Cage is Tigers of Pantangs In Through the Outdoor. Maybe XTC's The Black Sea is XTC's In Through the Outdoor, because it comes in a bag. So In Through the Outdoor came in a brown paper bag. XTC came in a black plastic bag. Buzzcocks debut came in a silver plastic bag, and Quartz Deleted, which is the update of Quartz, came in an actual brown paper bag, just like In Through the Outdoor. And then Stars Attention Shoppers came in a brown paper bag too, a shopping bag. So those ones as well. So yeah, that's all my in through the outdoor.
Continuing on with the brown bag packaging type thing. How about Alice Cooper
Oh,
Mustang
there we
Club?
go.
You
Nice.
know, I almost forgot about that one. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
And then to
perfect.
get back to the whole kind of late period album, very mellow, very different sounding. I'm going to throw Never Say Die out there. Again, it's just jazzy, it's bluesy, it's not what you typically expect from the band. You got, all of a sudden, Bill Ward's got a very pronounced presence on here, just like John Paul Jones on the Led Zeppelin album. So, yeah, Never Say Die is there in through the outdoor. And then I'll throw as an honorable mention Kiss Dynasty, right? Late 70s, late period album there. One of the latter ones with the original lineup. It's kind of mellow. It's got a disco song on it, right? And it's just
Same year exactly.
same year exactly. Yeah. So so there's some comparisons there. So that's our in through the outdoors.
Nice. Okay. So the final one is Coda. So for Led Zeppelin Coda, I said that the Dictators Every Day is Saturday is the Dictators Coda. So, I guess really talking about an odds and sods sort of, rarities album, post career album. So many bands have these sorts of things, but this is a good one. I'll also say that Coda is for as short as it is, it offers pretty good value. I mean, there's some good stuff on Coda, right?
Oh, yeah.
People like Coda. And speaking of odds and sods, we've got the Who odds and sods. And you could throw in the Pete Townsend Scoop albums. I pulled out the Replacements, excellent compilation, All or Nothing. All for nothing, nothing for all. So it's a mix of hits and rarities, but it's a good one. It's a double CD. And then I figured Rainbow Final Vinyl kind of always felt a little bit like it, and even looks like it with the same forest green sort of thing to it, right? But this is a mix of live and studio and some rarities and stuff. It's more of a live album, I suppose, but it's definitely feels like an odds and sods as well. So yeah, those are my my Led Zeppelin codas.
Cool. All right. Toto Old is New is their Led Zeppelin coda. This is their coda, I should say. This came, now, as we know it now, Toto can no longer release albums as Toto anymore. So here, Steve Lukather and company put together some tracks that they didn't use throughout the years, redid some stuff. And it's another kind of little odds and sods package to come out late in their career. It was originally only part of a box set, then they released it on its own. And then we've got Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, The Sky is Crying, released after he died. Again, this is a collection of studio stuff unused on previous albums from throughout their career. Pretty good set, actually. Also, another one to mention is Pink Floyd Relics, which came out after Final Cut, right? And contains all sorts of B-sides and rarities and things like that. And in fact, Floyd has a bunch of them. And you could almost call, I guess, the Endless River sort of a coda for them as well, because again, those were recordings that were unused by the band during the kind of Gilmour-led versions of the band. So, yeah,
Cool.
here we
Excellent. Excellent. Here we go.
got some good stuff here today, right?
As an assignment to the viewers, let me know why I took out my rubber plant now and then. I have no idea what this one is. So
I was wondering why, because I'm looking through our notes. I'm like, I don't see that anywhere. Like, what's that doing?
Yeah. Funny.
So I guess everybody's try and do this yourself, right? So basically in the comments below, take all of the Zeppelin albums that we mentioned and try and think of other bands that had an album in their catalog that kind of tick some similar boxes. Again, they don't need to sound like them. Conceptually, they don't need to be anything like them, but gives you the impression that there's something that's tying them together a little bit. There's certain qualities that remind you of those albums, musically or packaging or double album, single album, it's bluesy, it's folky, whatever it might be. We gave you a lot of different variety here on our picks today, so I'm sure there's plenty of others we didn't even think about. So
yeah, and if you like this, let us know, because we've been threatening to do this with the 8 Aussie era Sabbath albums, maybe, right? So
yeah. That would be
kind
fun.
of fun.
That would
Yeah.
be fun. So if you want to see that, let us know. We're happy to oblige. But
Yeah.
we've got a couple other ideas we're brewing for next week. So I'll be announcing that soon. So Martin, what's going on your end? The books and contrarians and podcasts. Got any updates for everybody?
Well, the most recent books are the Who Quadrophenia one. I still have those, and the Blue Oyster Cult panel book. But I just got news this morning that my Kiss at 50 books have been shipped to me, so I'll have those sooner than I thought. I thought they were the end of the month, but I've got a whole pile of orders that I got to send out already because my web guy Blaze had stuck it up at my site way early. I'm thinking, oh, I hope nobody sees this because I don't tell anybody about it until the books are in, right? So it's
Martin,
been
you're doing
sitting there at my
pre-orders
site.
already. Look at that. You got into the
Yeah, I
pre-order.
don't like pre-orders. I want, like I tell people, I want to see those heavy boxes sitting across the room before I tell anybody about any of these books. But yeah, this has been shipped, so it's on its way. I should get them early next week. So I'll be doing that. But yeah, that Kiss book is at my site. And yeah, Contrarians, we've got a regular album cover show, and a lot of other shows have gone up. Talk to a viewer session. We did an hour interview all about how rock works in India. Did that one, and the podcast every week, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff.
Ooh, lots going on. What do we got here on the channel? So later today, we got the professor's pick. So Ken Golden will be taking up Martin's seat in the Zoom, and Ken will be telling us about all sorts of cool stuff that's releasing today here on New Release Friday, because Friday is the day where the new music comes out. So stay tuned, 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next installment of Professor's Picks. And then this weekend, we've got on, let's see, wow, it's October 1st on Sunday. So not only is it the start of the new monthly series for October, I will be somehow counting down my favorite 31 albums of the 70s across all genres. Martin, toughest assignment ever, trying to pick 31 of your favorite albums of a decade like the 70s across like hard rock and metal, prog, pop, jazz and fusion, progressive rock. Almost impossible. I somehow did it, but at least I think so. If I look at my list one more time, I'm going to start changing things again. So we'll see. But so pick number 31 is coming up on Sunday, as well as ranking the albums. I will be joined by Mr. Ryan Scow from the Hudson Valley Squares. We're going to rank the catalog of the great British doom band Electric Wizard. So that's coming up on Sunday. So till then, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you here next Friday at the Funhouse. Till then, have a good one. Bye-bye.